Do you feel frustrated and overwhelmed because you can't train your dog and he doesn't listen to you? Are you doubting of your abilities and skills to train your dog? Do you have a sense of helplessness when behaviors like barking, chewing, or not listening persist? This can lead to stress in the home, especially if it impacts daily routines or relationships. Well, if you are having all these issues, this audiobook is the solution to all your problems. Stay until the end of the video and I will guarantee you the value of this audiobook. Dog Training Easy, written by Vincent Sapillo. Published by Audiobooks Revolution. Introduction. Some may feel embarrassed when their dog misbehaves in public, while others might experience guilt, worrying they aren't giving their dog the proper guidance. However, it's important to remember that every dog and owner learns at their own pace. Training a dog is a fun, rewarding adventure filled with challenges, patience, and triumphs. From teaching sit to mastering agility, it's about building trust, understanding, and a lifelong bond. Expect tail wags, goofy mistakes, and proud moments when they finally get it. It's teamwork with your best furry friend. In this audiobook, we will teach you 50 tips to train your dog successfully. This book is packed with great suggestions and tricks to make it fun and rewarding. Tip number 1, be committed. Do not get a puppy or a dog for a pet if you are not fully committed in caring for it. Without commitment, you can never train your pet effectively. By being committed, as well as by loving your pet, you would have the necessary drive to do what needs to be done in order to train him well. Tip number 2, never give up. Whether you are trying to train a dog or a puppy, you need to be aware that it requires time and a lot of patience in order to get your pet to perform the things you want him to do. In other words, you need to be patient about it. Aside from that, you should never give up so that he would be able to understand what you want and do it. Tip number 3, be positive. Be positive at all times when it comes to training your dog. A positive attitude will mean a lot for your pet, since he can feel when you become frustrated or angry. Being positive means that you have to praise him whenever he does something good. Aside from that, you should also believe that your pet can do it, so as to encourage a more positive atmosphere. Tip number 4, prepare treats. Dogs love treats like dog biscuits and such. Prior to taking the steps in training your pet, you should prepare treats as rewards for your pet whenever your dog is able to follow your command. Make sure that the kind of treats you have prepared is something that he really likes much, so that he would really know that he has done something right. Tip number 5, don't forget about your dog health. Before training your dog, you have to make sure that he is in top condition. This is because a dog that is not feeling 100% well would not have the focus that you want him to have. He should be a happy and healthy dog to begin with, which is why you should make sure that he eats nutritious foods and he should be taken to a veterinarian for his regular checkups. Tip number 6, take your dog for a walk. Walking your dog can make him happy. It can also ensure that he gets enough exercise, which would promote his health. Doing this on a regular basis would make your dog see it as a routine, and this would make positive results in your training program, especially if you do it on a regular basis as well. Tip number 7, play with your dog. Dog training should just be one of the things that you do in a particular day. In other words, do not do it for all the time that you spend with your dog. Play with him whenever you can, so that he can feel that being with you is not just all about learning new things, but having fun as well. Tip number 8. Train your dog in a place free from distractions. You have to take note that dogs can get easily distracted. In other words, if you want his full attention on the trick or task that you need him to perform, then you should make sure that you are doing it in a place free from distractions. Keep in mind that your other pets can distract him as well as other people in your household. Tip number 9, get to know your dog better. There are certain times of the day when your dog is more active. For example, some dogs like to take naps during the afternoon, and if that is the case with your pet, then you may want to train him in the morning or after his afternoon nap. It is best to train your dog when he is full of energy so that he can pay attention to you more. Tip number 10, time your training sessions. Always take note that in most cases, dogs can put their full attention to their masters for a period of 15 minutes only. Thus, there is no point if you are going to go beyond that time period in training your pet, since he may already lose his focus. With that, it is best to schedule short training sessions within the day to make it more effective. Tip number 11, be the leader. Dogs naturally follow a leader in a pack. Thus, you have to establish being a leader so that your pet would follow your commands. Establishing your dominance does not mean that you have to hurt your pet. One example of it is to show him that you are the one to eat first before giving him his food. Tip number 12, reward your dog's good behavior. Giving rewards to your dog should not be limited to whenever he follows your command. Whenever you see that he has done something good on his own, you should reward him to encourage that behavior. By doing this, your dog would be able to know that he has done something good and would do it again and again. Tip number 13, use your pet's name. Use your pet's name whenever you need to get his attention. If you have just gotten him home, then you should use it as often as you can to get him oriented to it. Thus, whenever you are giving him his food, you should call him by his name, as well as whenever you want to play with him or take him for a walk. Tip number 14, be serious in giving a command. Whenever you want to give a command to your pet dog, you have to be serious about it. In other words, you should not let him ignore it, since that could become a habit that would cause problems in the future. If you are not ready to enforce your command, then you should give it at another time. Tip number 15, timing is the key. Always remember that dogs have short-term memory. In other words, if you are going to reward him for something good that he has done 15 minutes ago, then he would not be able to connect it. The same goes for punishing him for doing something wrong. Thus, you should make sure to reward or punish him on a real-time basis so that he would understand it well. Tip number 16, never reinforce undesirable behavior. There are times when your puppy does something bad, but funny at the same time, which may make you forget about punishing him for it. Although funny bad habits can make you laugh, you should still make your dog aware that it is not good. If you let him do it without punishing him, then that would be the same as reinforcing it. Never reinforce negative behavior, since that can be hard to get rid of in the future. Tip number 17, do not punish desirable behavior. Punishing desirable behavior can be confusing to your pet, which is why it should not be practiced. Keep in mind that you may be doing it, even without your intention. For example, if you want your puppy to eliminate outside the house, then you should be with him until he does it. Leaving him alone outside may make him feel that he is being punished, especially if he wants to be with you. Tip number 18, never punish your dog after calling him. Calling your dog and punishing him is not a good practice, since he has just followed your command. This can make him have second thoughts of approaching you whenever you call him. Thus, only punish your dog whenever he does something bad. Aside from that, punish him at the instance of showing his undesirable behavior, so that he would know what it is all about. Tip number 19, do not blame your dog for misbehaving if he is not well. You should be able to know signs that can tell you whether your dog is sick or not. This is because there may be times when he does not behave as well as you want him to be, due to a certain ailment. With that, you should not punish him, but instead, get a veterinarian to check on his condition. Tip number 20, training your dog with a leash and a collar. Some dogs may become uncomfortable whenever you put a collar and leash on them. Thus, you should do it while your pet is still a puppy so that he can get used to it early on. Walk your dog around the house with a leash first, before taking him outside so that you can train him properly. Tip number 21, positive social interaction. Having positive social interaction is one of the basic needs of dogs, which you need to fulfill prior to training him. With that, you have to make sure that you would greet him whenever you meet inside or outside the house. Aside from that, you should also let other members of the family socialize with him so that he would feel that he belongs. Tip number 22, let your dog feel secure and safe. Before you can even get your pet's attention for training, you have to make sure that he feels secured and safe whenever he is with you. Thus, if you have just gotten a puppy, you should consider the fact that you have just separated him from his mother. With that, you have to comfort him and situate him in a place where he won't get hurt, so that he would feel secure. Tip number 23, provide proper food and water. Providing healthy foods for your pet would not just ensure that he is in good shape at all times, it would also make his senses sharper, which would greatly help when it comes to training him. Thus, make sure to give him nutritious foods and fresh water at all times so that you would be happy with the results of the training. Tip number 24, give proper shelter. Having the right kind of shelter is one of the needs of a dog that you have to provide. Giving him proper shelter would not just make him feel happy with you, but also make him feel safe. Thus, if your dog is not going to be sleeping inside your house, then you should build a sturdy shelter for him in good size so that he would be ready to follow your commands. Tip number 25, give your dog proper exercise. Walking your dog and playing with him are just some of the examples of activities that you can do in order to give him enough exercise. Exercising your dog would not just improve his physical condition, it would also make him feel that you really care for him, which would encourage desirable behavior. On top of that, it would also make him reciprocate by following your commands. Tip number 26. Training your dog is a day-to-day activity. Aside from doing your training sessions each day, you should also keep in mind that your dog learns something new each time he interacts with you. Thus, you need to make sure that whenever he is with you, you should focus on shaping his good behavior. Inform other members of your family about it so that they can all help in shaping up your dog's behavior. Tip number 27, making corrections. Whenever you need to make corrections on your dog's actions, you should make it as clear as possible. Aside from that, it should also be short and well-defined. By doing it this way, you would be preventing your dog from getting confused. Aside from that, it would also make him remember the corrections better. Use only syllable word commands at the beginning. If you have just started training your dog, you should see to it that you are giving commands that have one syllable only. For example, instead of using sit down, you should use sit, so that it would be easier to understand and remember for him. Do it this way so that your dog won't have difficulties in following what you want. Tip number 29, rewards encourages behavior. Always remember that whenever you are giving rewards, you would be encouraging a particular behavior more. Thus, you need to be mindful of the times when you reward your pet, since you may accidentally reward him for misbehaving. Aside from that, keep in mind that rewards are not limited to giving treats or foods. Dogs can also see a pat in the back, or simply the absence of a punishment a reward. Tip number 30, punishing your dog. Whenever you see your dog misbehaving, you should punish him immediately to put a stop to it. Punishing is not done by hurting your dog. One example of it is to just say no or to stop playing with him if he gets too physical. Aside from that, you can also leave him by himself to make him feel that you didn't like what he has done. Tip number 31, punishment suppresses a behavior. When you punish your dog for misbehaving, you need to keep in mind that it only suppresses it. In other words, it does not eliminate the behavior entirely. Thus, you need to take note that it is still very possible for him to repeat his bad habit again. Monitor his actions all the time so that you can remind him that misbehaving is not good. Tip number 32, training drills. Learn training drills from expert dog trainers or by simply buying a book about it. Letting your dog go through training drills can help a lot, since such drills can make him acquire new skills. Learn about the different training drills and practice them one at a time so that you can make your dog a skillful one. Tip number 33, having a single goal on each training session. Focusing on a lot of training goals in a single training session would not help much. You should focus only on one goal in one session, since dogs have short attention spans. In other words, if you focus on too many goals, then you may not be able to achieve any one of it, even in 2 sessions for a day. Tip number 34, start with basics first. You need to start with the most basic commands first, in order to proceed to more complicated ones. This is because basic commands can help you gain more control over your dog. For example, if you have already taught him to sit, then you can always use that command in order to get his attention in doing other tricks. Tip number 35, be aware of your dog's feelings. There are times when your dog may not feel like following your commands, since he did not have a good night's rest, or he is in a bad mood. You should know how to tell your dog's feelings, so that you can use it to decide whether to proceed with a training session or not. If he is not in the mood for it, then you can simply play with him, or sit down while watching the sunset. Tip number 36. Awareness of your actions is important. Being aware of your actions is important when it comes to training your dog. You should be aware of how you wave your hand or the tone of your voice, since it can affect your dog's attention. For example, if you are waving your hand too much, then instead of listening to your voice, your dog may be looking at it. Tip number 37, practice self-control. You cannot expect to achieve success in dog training if you cannot control yourself. With that, you need to practice self-control in order to control your dog. Dog training requires a lot of self-control, since it can take a lot of effort and time to get your dog to follow your commands. Tip number 38. What to do when you feel frustrated. In training your dog, you need to be aware that there would be times when you would feel frustrated about it. Whenever you feel angry at your dog, though, you should not proceed with the training session. Instead, let your dog do what he wants to do and come back when you have already calmed down. Tip number 39. Do not punish your dog whenever he fails to follow your command. There may be times when you feel that your dog is testing your patience by not following your command during a training session. However, you need to remember that dogs always want to please their masters. In other words, you simply need to spend more time in teaching him about the command for him to follow it. Do not punish him, since it would just confuse him more. Tip number 40, walking the dog. Whenever you are walking your dog on a leash, do not tighten the leash, since it can hurt your dog. Aside from that, it can also make him pull you as a counter response, which is not good. Keep his leash loose so that he can enjoy the walk more and would look forward to it day by day. Tip number 41, groom your dog. Grooming your dog would ensure that he always feels comfortable, which would have positive results in your training sessions. Thus, it is best that you do it regularly. Make sure to do the grooming yourself, since it is also an activity that would bring you closer to each other. Tip number 42, focus on one command at a time. Always remember that dogs can have a hard time distinguishing two commands, especially if they are conflicting. Thus, it is always best to focus on one command at a time. Do not make your pet's life confusing, so that he would have a better time following your orders. Tip number 43, use the words good and no on a daily basis. Learning the meaning of the words good and no should be one of the basic things that you need to teach your dog. This is because you would be using these words on a daily basis whenever you interact with him. Your dog should know that whenever you say good, it means that he has done something right. On the other hand, whenever you say no, he should know that he has done something wrong. Tip number 44. Nagging your dog should not be practiced. Nagging your dog is not something that should be done, since it would not bring any kind of positive results. If you do it to your dog, it can only mean two things to him. It would mean nothing since he does not understand what you are saying, or it can mean something negative due to the tone of your voice. In any case, it should not be done, since it would not be beneficial for both of you. Tip number 45. Only one person should give a command at a time. Your dog would have a hard time telling which person to follow if two people would give him conflicting commands at a time. Even if the command is the same, it is still best for only one person to give it at a time. This way, your dog would be able to pinpoint which person and command to follow instead of getting confused. Tip number 46, consistency is key. Being consistent is very important in training your dog, Practicing consistency means that you need to use the same word for a certain behavior all the time. Aside from that, you should also be consistent punishing him for his bad practices, so that he would be able to put it in his mind. Tip number 47, preventing aggressions problems. It is very important to prevent aggression problems as early as possible, since it can hamper your training program. Thus, you should make sure that the moment your dog or puppy sets foot into your house, necessary things should be done to make him happy, secure, and contented. By doing this, it would make him easier to train, aside from preventing behavioral problems. Tip number 48. Do not get a dog if your family is not at the same page as you are. If you are getting a pet dog, make sure that your whole family agrees with your decision. Aside from that, they should also share the same passion as you have for your pet. This is because your family would also be interacting with your dog on a daily basis. Thus, they can all affect his behavior and development, which are some of the factors that determine the success of your training program. Tip number 49. Make your new puppy relax in his new environment. In bringing home a new puppy, you have to consider that he would be looking for his mother as well as the other puppies that he has been with. Making him relax in his new environment would help him respond to your training positively. To achieve that, you can place a warm, hot water bottle beside his bed and a ticking clock inside the room, so that he would feel similar things as he did when he was still in his litter. Tip number 50. Be with your puppy as much as you can. When your puppy is left by himself for long periods of time, it may lead to practicing destructive behavior, especially when he gets bored. Thus, you should spend as much time with your puppy as you can on a regular basis. Have a healthy playtime, such as playing fetch, would help a lot not just in establishing your connection with him, but also in preventing boredom. There you have it, folks. 50 tips to train your dog. Please listen to the other audiobook Volume 2 where we present the other 50 tips. I'm sure you will find a lot of value also. As always, make it fun. You'll feel that the reward is priceless. Guaranteed. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing audiobooks. It's free and it helps us tremendously. Until then, see you on the next one.